There may be a delay because for me it says now it is published. Okay, all right, good. Hello, Chris. Yeah, so this is what thank you for confirming. Okay, yeah, that's right. So now the question is, are others are also online or not? I just hope they are. So I'm just going to go on. Okay, thank you so much. Bye bye. Not quite sure what went wrong. I thought I did all the right steps, but for some reason we'd have to restart the stream a couple of times. So it's possible that you may be looking at the wrong stream. But Chris Narayan just confirmed that we are on, so I hopefully you can all rejoin. So what I was saying earlier was that this is a this is a very key central vision of our Shastras. And one can say that this is how the entire creation of Ishvara is on. Just a second, let me see. Okay, Chandra says, yeah, he was late to the class, so looks like everything is okay. So the central vision of Shastra that I think we should really adopt in our lives is that my sense of problems in my life, all the very, very problems in our life, is not intrinsic to me. Very much like if you are watching a movie and you are, God forbid, sobbing with sorrow at the scene in front of you, and that whole sobbing and disappointments at how things are turning out in the movie, and not disappointments, but all the emotion that you are feeling is not intrinsic to you. You came into there with a clean slate, so to speak, but you got caught up in the movie. This is an important thing to see. This is what I think we should keep in mind as we view our life. And that is that my entire life and how I lead it, how I experience it, all the sukha dukkha that I am going through and so on, is not intrinsic to me. It isn't. And this is difficult for us to see. What are you saying? But this is Shastra's view, that all of the samsara is not intrinsic to you. It is due to the fact that you are intricately related to all the things that you have. Just a second, there's another. Yeah, I think so. Somehow Zarina had some issues, but I think the rest of you were able to see. So Lekha, thanks for confirming that. So, so that's a central thesis. This is what I think we have to keep in mind. And what I had said earlier was this example of a car, or, that, and our vision for all what I consider to be me in this, without having the upadesha of, without the teaching of Shastra, what I consider to be me, my body, my mind, etc., all that, is really my possession. Much like a car is my possession. And the car or any other vehicle or so many other instruments, including the cell phone and so on, are something that I possess, and they make me feel. Car is a good example in that sense, because if you're driving at a high speed, the wheels and the car is going at a high speed. You are not going at a high speed. You are just sitting there, not doing anything. And I was saying that, including the auto drive features of the new cars, you're not even steering or anything. You could, God forbid, be reading some newspaper. And certainly if you're a passenger, that is always the case. But even if you're driving, it is really the car that is driving. So that's a good vision to keep in mind, that really speaking, this we will really spend some more time on. This is a very important thing. And I would say that if you have the time and if you have the opportunity on this very point that I'm discussing, go to Bhagavad Gita chapter number 14, okay, which is Guna Vibhaga Yoga. Guna Vibhaga Yoga. So I was reviewing that chapter recently, and I was reviewing it with a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita written by Swami Shankarananda. And Swami Shankarananda is the guru of Swami the Panchadashikara. So the writer of the Panchadashi, Swami, I can't even just remember, it slipped my mind. And so Shankarananda ji is the guru of that person. And he's considered to be a very, very important step. I was reading about the history. He was born in Vidyaranya, Swami Vidyaranya. Swami Vidyaranya was born in the early 1400s, or he was active in the early 1400s, and so they considered that Swami Shankarananda is about 25 years before him, and so he's in the late 1300s. Swami Shankarananda has written a remarkable number of very excellent books, and a compendium of called Atma Purana, and he's written Deepikas on all of the Upanishads, and he's also written a Deepika on the Bhagavad Gita. The reason I picked it up, and I'm actually now actively reading it, starting with chapter number 14. I don't know how I started with number 14. Somebody had asked me a question about it, and so that's how I started doing it. This book by Swami Shankarananda is in Sanskrit, of course, has been translated into Hindi by Bhole Baba. And Bhole Baba is the same person that has written the Hindi commentary on the Brahma Sutras, which I think I've cited that as part of that class. Bhole Baba has done a remarkable job. He's a scholar, and he has very accurately translated this Sanskritam into Hindi. Anyway, this is all the background, and in this class, I am, as you can see, I am taking more liberty in kind of going around the subject matter, not just verse by verse or anything like that. So forgive me if I am if you think that I'm digressing. I'm not digressing. So in the 14th chapter, as commented by Swami Shankarananda, there is a focus on gunas. Gunas being the three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. Okay? And we all know that. We all know that we have gunas and so on. But here's the thing. The gunas weave together and have some effects, karya. So the gunas are the karana, and the effects are quite known to us, and those are our experiences. And so, for example, all of us are a mixture of the three gunas. So this is kind of like, there are three basic colors, and an artist can mix those three colors in various points to draw a very sophisticated picture. This is what Ishvara has done, is that the Maya Shakti consists of the three gunas, and those three gunas, tamas, rajas and sattva, are mixed in various proportions to create our personalities. And so we have a cause, and the effect is how we behave in our life. Whether we are studious and calm, or we are, so that is sattva, or we are very desiring for new things, rajas, or we are kind of lazy and don't do much, which is tamas. So this is a mixture of these three things. So these three gunas, and it is really even remarkably discussed in the 14th chapter. And if you have a commentary, please read a commentary by either Swami Dayananji or Swami Paramarthananda or any of the Swami Viditatmananda, any of those. And what you will find is, so this is one interesting thing. If I can continue on this path, though, so I don't have the Gita in front of me, but at the very first or the second verse of the 14th chapter, Lord Krishna says, I'm going to teach you the best knowledge, jnanam uttamam. This is an interesting thing because it's the 14th chapter. Sri Krishna has been teaching Atma Vidya from chapter number 2 onwards, and now he comes here and he talks about, I'm now going to teach you the best knowledge. Well, I thought you already taught me the best knowledge. So here Swami Shankarananda says, no. Here's what happens. If you are studying the basics of the knowledge, and you are grasping it and so on, everything is fine, but it is not yet working for you in your life. See, so the thing is, it is not important that we study. Yeah, it's very obvious. I'm not telling you something that you don't already know. The study is just a start. The main thing is to really make it work in my life so that I see what Shastra wants me to see, that I am an independent person, not really taken to all of these sukha dukkha that the samsara gives me. No, I'm independent of that. This is what I need to see. I don't see it yet. So the Jnana Uttamam talks about why is it that you don't see it? What are the problems? And so this is an example that I have given it to you previously in my class, because if you are a computer specialist, you will relate to it very well. I used to be a hardware designer in the old days when I was an engineer with IBM, and we had just begun to do the hardware design with software. Because now all the hardware design is done by software, but in those days that was very new, and so we had to develop algorithms to develop hardware. We have to design the hardware with the help of software. So it's the same thing with software or hardware. Doesn't matter. The main thing is that you are asked to design a circuit, and you did it. So you did all of this. You took all the steps, arranged it in that manner, software, and then you plugged it in. It doesn't work. Now that doesn't mean that you did not know the principles of the design, because you could not be in that position. This is after a computer science master's degree and all of that. So I was qualified. I knew what the steps were. And yet my design was not working. Now if that happens, what do? Either I get completely frustrated, doubting my own ability, or as the wisdom of the designer will go is that you did everything okay, but there are bugs in it. There are bugs that you have to take out, you have to debug it. So now you consider this. If the debugging has not been done, the results are zero. So the results are either it is working or it is not working. It is not working, so it is zero. Even though you may have spent weeks, perhaps even months in designing it, and you've gone through everything and it says, yeah, I think I did this, everything is all right. Just like our own study, we are studying about the difference between Atma and Anatma and all of those. This is the design, and we have done all of that, but it's not working. So in the 14th chapter, it says that why it is called Jnana Uttamam. This is what Krishna is telling Arjuna. He makes a promise. He says, hey Arjuna, I'm going to give you the best knowledge. What he's saying is, Arjuna, I am going to help you debug your design. Your design. And why is that the best thing? Because this is the last step that is necessary, which is keeping you from having any results whatsoever. This is exactly what happens to us. We study Vedanta, but there are certain, you might call it doubts, questions, inconsistencies in our thinking, whatever you may call it, that keep us from fully gaining the results of this knowledge. So going back to the 14th chapter and going back to the Gunas and connecting it to what we are doing here, what it's saying is that the Gunas and their karyas have to be completely understood. Why? Because those are the Gunas of the world, not of you. They are the Gunas of Anatma. They are the Gunas of the appliance, not of the electricity. And they work so well that it appears that they are me. This is the difference. Very interesting. If you look at, one can argue that you're driving a car, but you don't say the car is me. One can have, this is an interesting objection that one can have. So if I give the example that your body is your possession, just like your car is your possession. Now you use the car, you switch it on, switch it off, put some gas into it, whatever you need to do. But then it is separate from you. And you never lose sight of the fact that this is my car. You never say this is me. But if you give me the example that your body is also like your car, a sophisticated car, how is it that I say me for the body but not for the car? It's a reasonable objection. And of course, we will dovetail it back to our Panchakosha Viveka once I'm done with this analysis, which will just take a couple of more minutes. So that can be a question. That what is the difference between the body and the car? Because how can I have a reasonable doubt that this is really my possession only, not me? What is the reason for it? Because if somebody, supposing there is a person who is who takes a hammer and bangs on the car, that doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't hurt me. It hurts the car. It hurts my sense of ownership because I have to get it fixed. So please don't do it. But as far as the pain is concerned, there's no pain in me. But if you touch me, I get the pain. So it's very clear that there is a very fundamental difference between the car and my body. And so you cannot say that the body is my possession in the same way that you're saying that the car is my possession. So there's a confusion here. This is what is sorted out in the thinking about gunas and their effects. How? What are you saying? Because my association with the body is very intricate and consists of the various gunas. And one of the gunas is that if someone hurts the body, then my association will make it seem like I am also hurt. That's one of the gunas of the body. In fact, if you recall, when we did the analysis of the identification, remember what's the second segment of the identification was? You remember that, it was just done recently. So the first one was sahajam, sahaja tadatmyam. The second one was karma tadatmyam. So these two are associated. Just look at it. I'll remind you of that. So the karma tadatmyam means, so this is where the gunas come in. That I have done certain karmas in my previous life and acquired certain gunas in a manner where if some good or bad has to happen to me, because I am Atma, because I am not capable of any changes, I am Nishkalaha, Nishkriyaha, Swatantraha, Niranjanaha, pure, like this space. You cannot touch space, you cannot burn space, you cannot color space, you cannot make it dark, you cannot make it light. It's beyond all of that. So that is the Atma. But if as a jiva, if I cannot be hurt, then what will be hurt is something that I'm associated with. This is what is called karmajam tadatmyam. I gave you the example that Swami Maheswaranji had pointed out, that if a person has done some serious crime, like a murder, and he has absconded, and you cannot find him, you cannot punish him, then certain governments will stoop to punishing his or her family, because you feel that somewhere there the person is hiding, and because that person is associated with some loved ones, and if they find out that the loved ones are suffering, then they will also suffer. And hopefully will come out one day and say, okay, I give up. Don't hurt my sons and daughters and wives and children and husbands, whatever. So this is called karmajat tadatmyam. So this is, I'll just give you the kind of like the final answer, and then we will go on. The final answer of this analysis of the Guna Vibhaga on the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is that a sense of doership and a sense of enjoyership, kartritvam and bhoktritvam, is actually in the body-mind complex through the association of the appropriate gunas. So very much like where you say, you traveled a long distance, and then you say, gosh, I drove so fast. I drove at 75 miles per hour. You did not drive 75 miles per hour. The car drove 75 miles per hour, not you. But it is a way of saying, and I did it, because you feel I was the one who was driving. I was the one who was doing it. So similarly here also, the Atma is not a karta, not a bhokta. But at this point in time, I cannot tell the difference, because the kartritvam and the bhoktritvam of the body-mind complex and the differentiation of me and that is not clear to me. So whatever happens to my body-mind complex happens to me. This is the issue. So once that, if that is not thought over through through self-inquiry, through Atma Vichara, again and again. And clearly, until that happens, the results don't come, even though you have been designing the circuit for a long time. So this is how the connection is. And Swami Shankaranandas Ji's detailed commentary on this, and because it's interesting, the Bhagavad Gita, if you don't know the exact details of why a verse and why a particular word in the verse is where it is, if you don't know this, it appears kind of like a collection of verses, sometimes repetition, sometimes not connected at all. But the wisdom of the commentators is to bring out the string of connections. It's kind of like dots on a chart. So this is what happens. The scientists, they can look at the data points that appear at various places, and from there they can connect the dots and come up with some equations and say, yes, this one fits. It was interesting, I was studying for my master's degree in Berkeley, computer science, back in '64. And I was about to graduate when, I think I've talked to you already before this, that my advisor said there is a very interesting project that has come up, and this will delay your graduation by one semester, but it will also give you a taste of doing some research. Are you willing to do so? I said, yes, I'm absolutely. I had some teaching assistants, so I had enough money to go month by month. So I said, fine, I'll do it. And so what it was a combination of Dr. Donald Glazer, who was in the physics department, and the electrical engineering, and it was to try to come up with a pattern recognition of the growth of E. coli. And so a lot of these points of E. coli growth were plotted, and you had to come out with some kind of an equation that connects all of them. So this is what was in my mind. And so I started doing this. And ultimately I was unsuccessful. I couldn't really finish the project. But even the steps were very useful. So I've never really followed through. This is a long time ago, whether the whole project was completed or not. But even the initial steps of trying to see the patterns were useful. And I learned a lot, and I got a passing grade out of it, and helped me get a good job, and so on. Anyway, so this is the job of the commentators. That in the Bhagavad Gita, you look at exactly how the Gunas create a sense of I am the doer, I am the enjoyer. How? They do it. And if you do this very well, then you can correctly assess who is really driving. The car is driving, I am not driving. But without that, lack of viveka comes in, and I get mixed up. Here's exactly what happens. So anyway, this is the whole process of de-identification that we have to do. And now we can go back to the main subject that we are following. And so let's continue on that. So the main subject we were following was that, as I started in the very beginning of the class, our issue in life is that we have a sense of identification with my body-mind complex, which makes me behave exactly as they behave. It is almost like another way of saying that if you are the electricity and you are never affected by any problems in the appliance, but because you are so closely associated with it, it's a teamwork, whatever happens to the appliance also appears to happen to you. This is what happens. So the question is, fine, if that is accepted, and I am willing to accept the hypothesis that my life is hard to believe, but this is a fact and I have Shraddha, and so if in fact my problems are not intrinsic to me and it's only because of the identification, then how do I de-identify? This is what we have to figure out. How do I debug this circuit? So we already started that and saying that the only way to do that is Atma Vichara. So this will also come up again and again. We will, not again and again, but we will revise this to say that this is the important thing. Atma Vichara is what delivers the goods. The entire set of Ishvara's anugraha, the Shastra anugraha, Guru's anugraha, all of that is to set up your Atma anugraha. And until you do not do Atma Vichara, you don't complete the job. That's another way of saying you've designed the circuit but you haven't debugged it. You've got to now do Atma Vichara. And the Atma Vichara, the method of doing Atma Vichara is what we are following. So there, what we saw last week was some arguments, some reasonable, logical arguments where it doesn't make sense to say that I am the body, even though I behave like that. I behave like that. When supposing somebody says, wow, you're tall, and I feel, yes, I'm tall. Hey, I am not tall. This body that I'm associated with is tall, but I have not yet even begun to think like that. I need to begin to think like that. Anyway, so our first sense is just take the most obvious sense of identification, which is the gross body, Annamaya Kosha. There the argument is that even though you behave as though you are the body, if you were to the example given, which I gave about my mother dying, and also Swami Maheshananji pointing out that his mother had said, your dad wants to really see you before he's on his deathbed. So please come, as soon as possible. So you get into the plane and you just go there, or in a railroad or whatever it is, and when you reach there, there is crying all along. And your mother says, oh my God, you missed him. So just look at it. You missed him. He's gone. He's gone. His body is lying there. That's exactly what happened to me. My mother, I was actually, I was there for the last 1 hour, I think it was. 1 hour. But she's gone. She's lying there in front of me. But she's gone. So when she is gone, that means it's not the body. There's something else which is gone. I want to find out who is it? Who is the person? Who is the person who calls me her son? Where is she? Where did she go? What does she look like? If she's not the body, and clearly she's not, she's dissociated with it. Who has disassociated with the body? We need to look into that. But we don't. We'll say, oh, she's gone. Gone where? So there we saw that, so this is the Annamaya Kosha. So the kosha is a place to make a mistake. Where we make the mistake is called kosha, a covering, a sheath. And so the first place we make the mistake is the sthula sharira. Then we saw that the second one is called prana. And the prana is also looks very, we'll say that the life-giving force, whatever it is, what is a life-giving force? Where does that, what form is that? What does it consist of? So here, even though there is some debate amongst the scholars, usually what is said is that the life-giving force, which is prana, which has these 5 different segments, prana, apana, purana, etc., all of those kinds of things, the vyana, are also associated with the sense organs and the organs of action. So the organs of action and the organs of knowledge can be folded into the prana. Whether it is or not doesn't matter, but the prana appears to be something that makes the body alive. So the question is, maybe that is the Atma. And so there it is said, we saw the example, that no, it is not, because for one thing, it's interesting, you never say, I am the prana. As you say, I am the body, in a way you do say it, but not explicitly. How? You say, I am alive. So if a person dies, that person cannot say, I am alive. So when you say a person is alive, that means that the aliveness is not the person. Isn't it? You see, if you say, I am here, then here and I are not the same thing. I happen to be here. I'm associated with here-ness. But I can be gone and going to be there-ness. So similarly, the aliveness and the Atma are not the same, but the Atma can be alive. You see? You can say that. The Atma is alive, but now the Atma is not alive. So the aliveness is not necessarily the Atma. This should be thought about it. And also we saw the example that Swami Maheshananji gave, which is that if the aliveness, the life-giving force, is really the Atma, the king. King means why do you say the king or the queen really? But why do you say that? Because things are happening for me. You see? So I am the owner. I am the main person. So this is what is called Angi Anga Bhava. So there are two words used. I think you pretty much know it. So let me just remind you. So Anga means a limb. So the hands, feet, etc. are called Anga. Then the main stem from which all the various parts of the body are attached to are called Angi. So the main one is called Angin or Angi. So Atma must be the Angi. It cannot be an Anga. It is not one of the parts of you. It is you. You are the main one. And if aliveness is you, the main one, then consider what happens. The main person who is we can now consider to be the owner, the king, the boss, is working, and all the people around him have gone to sleep. That doesn't make any sense. That never happens. The king can go to sleep in the palace while his soldiers are all active. But if the soldiers are asleep and the king is now actively protecting everybody, that doesn't make any sense. So the prana cannot be the Atma. The prana can be a possession of the Atma, like body is the possession of the Atma, but it cannot be the Atma. So this is where we ended the last class. So it's taken us 1 hour to revise. So now let's go forward. So he says, this is also a kosha. Kosha means that yes, you can make a mistake. You know, when you say, this is interesting, you can say in the statement, I am, and then you add some suffix to it. So the main thing is I am, and you can add a suffix. You can add an addendum. An addendum is I am what? I am the body. So in the statement I am the body, there are two parts to it. You are, and you are associated with something called a body, right? Similarly, you can say, I'm alive. When you say I am alive, I'm just giving you another way of looking at the same thing. I've already talked about it. There's nothing new here. It's just a way of expression. You can say I am, and then you can add alive. So this is called pranamaya kosha, where you mistakenly associate and identify with the life-giving force called prana. Okay, so this is number one. So now we have decided that this is also an identification. It's not really you, for all the reasons we've gone through. Then comes the mind. The mind meaning my ability to visualize, to think, to react, to act, to analyze, all those kinds of things, to recall. So memory is also part of it, the ability to analyze things, having doubts, having discussions. That appears to be me. And I'm also, my thoughts are that I can even see my body and my breathing. How do I see it? Through my mind. So that is closer to me. That is me. That is the Atma. If this is the situation that you are thinking of, no. Why not? Because you cannot be two opposite things. You have to be one thing. You see, you cannot say that when you say I was the child, that's somebody else, not me. I am now here. This is me. So this doesn't make any sense. Because you were also the child, you are also the older person. So the childhoodness is in you, and the youth is in you, and the old age is in you, but you are you. You are not just the child. It's not like saying that when I was a child, that's somebody else, not me. Doesn't make any sense. So similarly, when you say I am the mind, that doesn't make any sense. Why? Because the mind, one time you're sitting quietly over the weekend, sipping a cup of coffee, reading the news about Omicron, how things are happening, how many cases, and what's happening, this, that, or the other. And you don't have Omicron, you're happy, you're just sitting and your bills have been paid, you're calm, and you are peaceful, and you've settled your accounts with the world. There's nothing urgently that needs to be done. In other words, you are calm, peaceful, quiet, and happy. This is your mind. Another times you are harried. You found out something bad about some closed one. And you have to rush. And you have to catch a plane. And planes are not running. Visas are not possible. A loved one is not well. And you cannot you are harried. Your mind is going berserk. And you're late. You may miss the plane. All kinds of issues. That's also. So both the calm mind and a disturbed mind can be in you. It is in you, both of them. So now you tell me, are you the calm mind that sometimes gets disturbed? Or are you the disturbed mind that sometimes gets calm? No, none of that makes sense. So you have so many conditions of the mind, not just calm and harried, but frustrated, relieved. So many of them. Kama sankalpa sandeha, shraddha shraddha, shraddha shraddhe, dhriti tare, drikdrisya viveka. So many of them. That's all imported from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. There's so many different emotional things that you find in your mind. Every minute is different. So many different colors. So you're not any one of them. They're all in you. The Atma cannot be the mind, not the Manomaya Kosha. That is also a Kosha. It's also a Kosha. Kosha in the sense that it is covering you, because you'll say you just like you say I'm the body, you'll say I'm disturbed. I'm really disappointed. I don't understand why do I have to face this? I don't deserve it. This is not my doing. Why does these things happen? All those kinds of things. Or you can say, I'm so happy. Everything is going well. So many different emotions. So many states of the mind. You're one, you're the other, you're both. All kinds of combinations are there. So there are different changes, and you cannot be the mind. So no. Mind is a kosha. You take that on yourself and say, I am this. Alright, so I'm not the Manomaya kosha. Then I must be the Vijnanamaya kosha. Vijnanamaya kosha means I am a person who does things, who thinks, who gives commands to the body, who protects the body, takes care of it, feeds it, looks after it, breathes well, or not, but breathes, prana, possessor of prana, possessor of the body, possessor of the mind, and I am the doer. This is me. And all throughout the day, I have the sense, this is me. How do you know this is me? Because it's very clear. My thoughts say me consistently. I am the boss of myself. I'm not the boss of anybody else. I would like to be, but nobody allows me. But I am at least my own boss. You cannot deny me that. This is me. I can do anything I want to. If I want to shut the class right now, I can just walk away. I can open my eyes. I am the boss. I am the karta. This is me. Really? Are you sure? Yes. Because if I don't do this, then I am the one who is really keeping everything going in my life. Good or bad, I'm not saying that everything is good, but I'm the one who is really responsible. This is me. This is called karta. So this is not just manaha, but this is vijnanaha. Jnanamaya Kosha. Are you sure? Yes. Can I tell you something? Have you considered deep sleep? Don't you disappear in deep sleep? I do? Yes. Think about it. Do you have a sense of who you are in deep sleep? In the dream sleep, you have a completely different personalities. Leave that aside. That's a separate issue. Let's just go to deep sleep. Don't you disappear in deep sleep? You're right. I do. Who takes care of the body when you are not there? You say you are the boss, and you're not even the boss. Somebody can come in and rob all of the things, take your wallet away, and can put a bullet into you without your realizing. Are you there? You're not there. So the karta is not consistent. We are looking for me, the Atma, which is singular and always there. Isn't that a minimum consideration for the Atma? If something keeps changing, then you cannot be that. You need to be somebody that absorbs those changes. Who is that? Is it the karta? And it appears it's the karta, the doer. But the doer itself disappears for a long period of time. Exposing yourself to anyone, exposing yourself at the mercy of anyone, your whole body, your whole mind, your possessions, your house, everything. Where are you? Okay, all right. I'm not there consistently. And you know what? There is one thing in the deep sleep which I am. I am the enjoyer, bhokta. I may not be the karta, but I am the bhokta. I am the enjoyer. I enjoy deep sleep. I'm happy, even though the kartritvam is not there, even though the body consciousness is absent, even though the mind is completely absent. But my sense is I am happiness. Okay, that's it. I am happiness. I am happy. Not happiness, I am happy. This is what is called Anandamaya Kosha. Really? Yes, that's it. That's me. That's the ultimate. No. Because if you are the Anandamaya Kosha as you say you are in the deep sleep, what happens to you when you wake up? Oh, you're right. Yeah. I'm not. My happiness goes out of the window. And it takes me like 10 seconds to realize that I am not really happy. So, you're not Anandamaya Kosha either. Alright, so then who am I? These are all the only possibilities that I have. I've recited all of them. Annamaya kosha, pranamaya kosha, manomaya kosha, vijnanamaya kosha, anandamaya kosha. But I have to be somewhere. Who is it? So this we will explore in the next class. It's important to know what I am not. Neti neti iti upadeshaha. It is important to know what I am not before I can discover what I am through Atma Vichara. So we will continue to conduct this method of doing Atma Vichara, which is Panchakosha Viveka, to de-identify with the false sense of identity with the body-mind complex. So we will continue with doing this in the next class. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Actually, with Purnamadav, the Shantis are pronounced separately. I keep forgetting that. So it is the Anuswara first. So it becomes Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Not Shanti. Not the high to the low, but low to high. That's how it is done. Okay. Now if you all stuck around or you gave up or whatever, so we'll see. Oh, you were there? Good. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened. I thought I got to the same steps. There's something somewhere. Lichi, Darshana, Chandra, Raj, Chris, Kate Shrup, Madhavadas, Shantikumar, Surendra, Zarina, Ila Joshi, Sulochana Lulla, Pannabhuva, Sulekha, Arvind, Subhash Jain, Shankar Nasiman, Balamani and Mary Penn, and any others that are not usually I find there's other people who are not in the chat window. So namaste to all of you. Happy that you could all join. Very good. I don't see any questions. So Shanti Kumar, I hope that I trust you are in the US for a longer time in the East Coast. It must be quite late for you, but good to have you. Ela, I don't remember seeing you recently, so happy to see you back. Sulekha also. And everybody else. Yeah, sorry about that. Some problem. I don't know. I don't think I. It's just, I don't know. Something to do with Wi-Fi or whatever. But I'm happy that we got it back. Okay, so we will hopefully see you next week. Hari Om.